This is Enterprise Radio and your host, Eric Dye.
This is Eric Dye, and once again, welcome to Enterprise Radio, your EPN channel for exclusive interviews with entrepreneurs, small business owners, and top executives who have experienced great success, as well as the sharing of their latest creations, products, and/or services that can help you build your business, leading to business success. Today, we are speaking with Scott McKinley. He is the president of SAE USA, a college that offers accredited degrees and diplomas in creative media education, including audio technology and music production. SAE USA has campuses in 7 major markets across the country, including New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Nashville, Chicago, Miami, and Atlanta. Scott, certainly a privilege to have you a part of Enterprise Radio.
Thanks very much, Eric. I'm delighted to be here today.
We certainly are delighted to have you as well. So first of all, Scott, along with being the president of SAE USA, you're also a passionate advocate of the value of career-focused education for American college students. How and when did this become an interest of yours?
Yeah, Eric, I think it goes back a number of years. I mean, I was raised in an education family. My parents and grandparents were all public school educators, so I'm sort of third generation, who knows, maybe fourth in the education space. But I was a black sheep that wandered off toward Wall Street and spent nearly 20 years traveling and living around the world, and mostly in the financial services industry. But about 12 to 13 years ago, I got involved in higher education and joined with two other partners to design and develop what we thought would become sort of the next generation university effort. And that effort was sponsored primarily initially by IBM. So, small little big blue stepped up. We're very interested in some of the concepts we had to train and prepare the next generation of software developers. And, when you have an industry partner like an IBM collaborating so closely with you in the development and the design process, everything from academic pedagogy, instructional design, mapping out outcomes and competencies for students that the employers need, it just sheds a different light on the whole process of higher education. And, love it or hate it, we think it's a great new model, but that model developed into Newmont University, which is still doing quite well, and it achieves very close to 100% placement of its graduates at very commanding salaries that are typically in the $60,000 to $70,000 range for entry-level Bachelor's of Science grads in computing sciences. So there were some very key individuals at IBM that I give a lot of credit to who embraced the vision of Newmont. But that taught me that you can build and map and design to engineer purposefully, in that case, computer science curriculum, to meet the needs of industry. And it's a win-win-win. It's a win for the educators, it's a win for the students, and who then become your graduates, and it's a very big win for industry.
And which skills in particular do you feel today's college students are lacking?
Well, if you talk to employers, they'll be pretty blunt about it, and they have been now for the better part of a couple of decades. But the skills that students are not able to achieve in the typical classroom lecture-centric model with multiple choice questions being the rubric of choice, right? All the things that we suffered through as students in our own experiences, what they then lack because of that sort of current teaching methodology that's been used for the better part of a century, they're really lacking communication, core collaboration capability, the ability to work in teams and collaborate, not just with somebody who's sitting across the desk from them or in the corner office around the corner from them. What about around the other side of the world from them, right? But that team-based environment is usually lacking with graduates. And then finally, I think they do need to be fluent in the tools du jour, the current tool set, that whatever industry, whether it's accounting, finance, marketing, sales, technology, digital media, creative media, they're lacking the core, up-to-date exposure to tools and technologies, but as or more fundamentally, they're missing the soft skills. And my viewpoint is that a lot of modern curricula is just not addressed and built to instill those competencies at a very high level of performance.
And by not having these skills, are today's college graduates at a disadvantage, in your opinion, in the job market?
Well, they become, of course they are, and it's a global market for talent, right? Employers like IBM or anybody else, the major creative media enterprises that are out there, can look for talent in any of the continents around the world. The world is flat, so to speak, right, to use Thomas Friedman language. And they are scouring the world for talent, and they need that talent. And it's a shame that many college graduates either go unemployed or they're underemployed or they're simply not prepared. We definitely see them at a severe disadvantage. What is interesting to note is that the students who do come, the graduates who do come prepared into the workforce with those skills, they just stand out enormously. I mean, they tend to be sort of 1 in 100 or 2 in 100 that can really demonstrate that core set of both soft and hard skills.
Today we're joined by Scott McKinley. He is the president of SAE USA, a college that offers accredited degrees and diplomas in creative media education, including audio technology and music production here on Enterprise Radio, a part of the Entrepreneur Podcast Network. Scott, do you believe that traditional four-year liberal arts colleges or universities need to adjust their curriculums to promote a more career-focused education?
Yeah, I would argue that strongly. I mean, I guess, Eric, my viewpoint is that look, there are different categories. When you sort of use the word, it's sort of a catch-all phrase here, traditional four-year liberal arts schools. I think everybody knows what we mean by that. But there are different categories. If you're a Harvard and you have $30 billion or so in your endowment fund, you can pretty much do what you want to do. You're truly independent financially. You're secure. For the next century or so, you can pursue whatever path strategically and tactically you'd like to pursue at the governance and at the helm of that institution. The problem in education is that there are very few institutions who have the luxury of having those sort of financial resources at their disposal. And so college presidents at the small to medium-sized liberal arts schools scratch their heads and wonder how they're going to survive in a world with MOOCs, in a world where employers are clamoring for better prepared entry-level graduates, in a world where hybrid and blended delivery and competency-based education and all the things, the tectonic plates are shifting very radically right now. And so if I, could give any humble advice to my colleagues and peers in higher education, it would be to think deeply about what it is they can do to differentiate themselves and try not to necessarily pursue the DNA or the pathway of the Harvards of the world. I just don't believe the world ultimately will settle out to more than 50 to 100 elite universities that can, that have those sort of financial pockets in order to support those strategies. The rest of us, mere mortals in higher education, I think need to think very clearly about how we will differentiate ourselves, and that can be with, career-focused, valuable, high return on investment education for, frankly, the majority of students who need exactly that type of preparation.
There was an article on CNNMoney.com recently called Colleges That Offer the Best Return on Your Investment. So your thoughts on the importance of career-focused education couldn't be more timely here today. Why do you think it's taken so long for this perspective to gain traction among students? Well,
I think, first of all, it in some extent, if we look inward into higher education, I think we can blame ourselves. I don't think that the institutions have recognized that industry has been lacking. Industry has consistently articulated the need and the skills gap that exists among entry-level graduates. The educators, on the other hand, have been, there always has been, over the last few decades, certainly a growing availability of financial aid in the form of student financial aid here in the United States and even overseas. There have been various government student loan programs that have been available. And so that has supported, in turn, ever higher tuition rates. And so when you have, I use this analogy, when you have a 20-mile-per-hour wind blowing off the back of the boat, you don't necessarily need to be great strategic sailors. If you just put the sails up on the boat and you generally point it in the direction you want to go and the wind is blowing quite strongly off the back of the boat, you're going to get to where you want to go. What happens, however, when funding begins to dry up, whether it's from state legislators or at a federal level or in the private financing markets for education, what happens? Well, then families And students are forced to think much more deeply about the return on educational dollars that they're investing and the quality of their degree and whether their degree actually gets them the core competencies that the job force demands. And so I think more recently people are beginning to say, you know what, I don't know if a $200,000 bachelor's degree is really valuable. I know I'll get connections at an elite Ivy League institution or an equivalent around the world, but is it really fundamentally worth it for a parent who doesn't necessarily qualify for all of the grant money to spend $200,000 or $250,000 for a bachelor's degree? I think there's some very tough questions being asked. On the other side of the equation, Eric, what's really fascinating to me is we now finally see that there are some disruptive innovators coming into the higher education market space. There are quality operators who are beginning to offer high-quality degrees, industry-orientated degrees, high return on an education dollar investments that meet the needs of industry. And I would include SAE Institute in that equation, or in that landscape. I would include someone like Southern New Hampshire University that's doing a great job in the East Coast, and there are others.
Lastly, what are ways that colleges can validate the return on investment that they can deliver to prospective students?
To me, it's all about changing our mindset, Eric, from inputs to outcomes. Can any college in the United States or outside the U.S. demonstrate that their graduates are better prepared, that their graduates have the core set of competencies that map to certain industries that are hiring their graduates? Can they help prepare these students through really extensive career services, counseling, job placement, preparation, mock interviews? Are the students provided with opportunities for internships and externships? Can students do consulting projects where they're actually engaging with industry and delivering real value added to industry partners that a university has a dedicated team to engage with? Is there an alumni outreach effort and active engagement, again, thinking about how the alumni can help to pull graduates and students in the upper division classes into industry? Is there a global approach? Are universities thinking globally about not just having a simple study abroad program that sends kids to, X, Y, and Z countries, but actually taking those internships as opportunities to match them and blend them with the study abroad opportunities so that American students are being better prepared for that flat world that I referred to earlier. I mean, there are of ways this can be done. I know that there are many universities that are attempting to do that. I think it just takes work. It takes thought. It takes strategy. It takes execution. And that's not always easily done within the governance structure of today's modern universities. At SAE, we're trying to do all the above, and we are achieving that. I mean, we're achieving some really good placement outcomes for our students, and students come to us because they know that we have a strong global alumni network. We have great relationships with industry in the creative media space all around the world, whether it's audio, film, animation, game development, across a whole broad range of creative media disciplines. People know that we've got a 40-plus year history in the industry and in the space, and so I think we've been able to do it. I think others can and are attempting to do it, and it's exciting. It's an exciting time in this sort of transformative period of higher education.
Well, Scott, certainly has been good to have had you and to hear more about SAE. How about telling our listeners where they can get more information online and how they can be in contact with you as well?
Oh, sure. For those that have friends and family that are interested in the creative media industries, SAE's a very prominent player. We're located in 7 major capital cities here in the United States and in about nearly 30 countries globally. So we are pretty unique, Eric, in the sense that we operate in, under the SAE brand name. We operate these colleges all over the world. So I think our primary website at SAE.edu certainly has available a lot of information there for those that are interested, and we look forward to continuing to be an active participant in the world of higher education.
Well, Scott, certainly has been great to have had you once again, and come back anytime. It has been our pleasure.
Thanks very much.
We've been speaking with Scott McKinley, the president of SAE USA, a college that offers accredited degrees and diplomas in creative media education, including audio technology and music production. SAE USA has campuses in 7 major markets and across the country, including New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Nashville, Chicago, Miami, and Atlanta. And once again, the website of reference is SAE.edu. And this is Eric Dye, and you've been listening to Enterprise Radio, a part of EPN, the Entrepreneur Podcast Network. Pick up our iPhone or Android mobile app for your mobile listening convenience. And once again, we do thank you for tuning in.
Thanks for listening to Enterprise Radio here on EPN. For more information or to subscribe to this podcast, visit epodcastnetwork.com.
This is the ePodcast Network.